Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Sarah Jones with Politicus Radio. Joining me to talk about the epic fail of the Bernie Sanders surrogate, Dr. Paul Song, using the term Democratic whores, is PoliticusUSA's editor-in-chief, Jason Easley. Glad you could join us.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Song said last night at a Sanders rally, quote, Medicare for all will never happen if we continue to elect if we continue to elect corporate Democratic whores who are beholden to Big Pharma and the private insurance industry instead of us. Senator Sanders apologized via a tweet, but is it too late?
The damage has been done. The damage was almost instantaneous. But the problem is both structural, moral, cultural. There's a lot of problems. I shouldn't have said both. The problem is essentially that the majority of the Democratic Party is female, and Sanders is trying to sway voters in a closed primary as one of his surrogates insults not only elected Democrats, elected female Democrats, the Democratic Party superdelegates he's trying to sway. It was immediate damage. This is not, even Donald Trump has not used the word whore.
Yeah, I agree, and I think let's take this apart a little bit because I'm getting a lot of feedback from Sanders supporters who are sending me the dictionary definition of whore, and you know there is a point to be made about people in Congress who don't represent the people. That's absolutely legitimate, but the problem is that using the word whore to describe them, as tempting as that might be, is really damaging to women. It keeps women, words like that keep women out of politics. It keeps women out of power. And it's equivalent to the N-word. And it's really sad to see progressives and liberals and Democrats try to justify this. They think it's okay because the dictionary definition is X, but there's a dictionary definition for a lot of slurs and slander that doesn't make it okay to say. It's not okay in the Democratic primary.
Yeah, as we've discussed, there's a dictionary definition and a cultural definition. And the cultural definition is where the problem is. I tweeted this, and you've discussed this with me numerous times. Men never get, the word whore is never used as a slur against men.
Right, it's a compliment to a man. Yes. And so all of the people who are saying, oh, this isn't sexist, it's not by gender, this is applied to men too, well, they don't understand that that's actually, it's irrelevant. That's not the point at all. Culturally speaking, words like whore and slut have been used to shut women out of politics. They've been used as a tool of oppression. And women used to be raped and beaten for voicing political opinions. They still are in many countries. So people need to wake up and hear what is being said, why women are upset about this. And it isn't, people need to be able to handle two different ideas in their head at the same time. If you're going to call yourself a liberal or a progressive, and you think you're smart, then you need to be able to think about two things at the same time. One is Senator Sanders is a great defender of the people. That's A, and that's true. And B is that Democratic whores is not okay.
That's very simply laid out, and it's about as direct as you can get. There's nothing okay about this. You can say, well, he was talking about members of Congress. Well, 76 members of Congress, 56 House members, and 20 senators, almost half of the Democratic caucus in the Senate, are women.
Right.
Does that make it better? How does that make this better?
I mean, the fact is that women are underrepresented in government. They're underrepresented in the media, and part of the way they're kept out of seats of power, which is the media and government. Not all power, but those are two large examples of how we set narratives in our country. And who makes the laws, is by treating women like this, by using their sexuality against them, and by using words that slur women. Because no woman, I've been called a whore how many times today on Twitter? Probably, I can't keep track of it. Actually, I've had to mute at least 100 people now, and there are Sanders supporters by and large. Mostly. There are a few Trump supporters in there. And the sad thing is, right now you can't tell the difference between the two. You have to go to their timeline to see, because the talking points are the same. I say to people, Senator Sanders is a great liberal fighter for justice, for equality, for income equality, for holding corporate actors responsible. That doesn't mean that everything he does is perfect. And it doesn't mean that women don't get the right to say, don't call us the N-word. That's not okay. And I'm not holding Sanders responsible for that. He didn't say it, but this is his surrogate, and he needed to come out and say something better than a tweet. The reason his supporters are not all of them. Let's make that clear.
Yes.
It's not all of them. In fact, this is more of the sort of the people that, justified why it was okay when the government was accusing Assange of rape, and they said, it's not rape, she was asleep, that's not rape. Later, the facts came out. My point never was that, it was never that he's a rapist. That's not the point. The point is how we discuss these things matters. You can't call yourself a Democrat, a liberal, or a progressive and speak about women this way. No, or speak about black people using the N-word, speak about or tell them to go back to the plantation. A lot of these things. Speak about Mexicans the way Donald Trump does. This is not okay. I don't know why that's so hard to grasp. I mean, I think this defensive, reflexive anger and rage directed at women right now to keep them silent and to stop complaining about this is really misguided. It's morally wrong. And a lot of the people, I'm neutral in the Democratic Party. I'm not supporting Hillary Clinton. I still don't think it's right to call women or anyone whores. The word whores has been used as a political slur and a tool of oppression against women. So can we just find another word? Is it that hard?
Yeah, I mean, we are not the Republicans here. And this kind of behavior shouldn't be tolerated from a surrogate. If a Clinton surrogate or the candidate herself did something objectionable, it should not be tolerated. There are certain things that do not belong. The Democratic Party has to hold itself to a standard that is reflective of the people within and compose the party.
And the truth is that a lot of the Democratic Party is majority women. A lot of this anger that's coming, these people aren't even in the Democratic Party. It's not. They don't represent the Democratic Party. They have no right to decide that they're in charge of driving the narrative and what's okay. They're not in charge of it. In fact, the Democratic Party is comprised of a majority of minorities.
Yes.
And to denigrate minorities as a tool, as a political tool, as a way of discussing politics is not going to be a big winner with those folks.
Yeah, and that's the point that a lot of these people out there are missing. They're missing the fact that these are closed primaries coming up. 13 of the next 16 races are all closed, just Democrats only. That means that this stuff that might have gotten away with when independents are crossing over, it's supposed to be fiery language, down with corporations, blah blah. Well, whenever you throw the word whores in there to a Democratic base, that's objectionable, that's offensive, and that's going to lose primaries.
And well, I don't think that Dr. Song was referencing Hillary Clinton. I'm not going to say he wasn't. I don't know what was in his mind, but I don't. That's not my issue with him. I didn't get that from what he said, but a lot of Clinton supporters feel that he was, and it isn't a stretch for them to feel that way. It was too close of a comparison, and I would never say something. I mean, it's just not something you say in public if you're endorsing a candidate for president. It's inappropriate. There are a lot of other ways to discuss what's going on with our Congress and how they've been bought by big money and big pharma. But the other thing is, why even say that at all? Guess what? Bernie Sanders can't fix that, and neither can Hillary Clinton. No one can fix that. Congress has to fix that with laws. And no president can fix that.
You're completely correct. And there's the Clinton supporters, as you've pointed out, you've really enlightened and educated me. But as you've pointed out, the Clinton supporters have a justification to feel this way because when you look at the media coverage of this campaign, there is an undercurrent of sexism all through this campaign.
Yeah.
If I may give you one example, one very recent example, Donald Trump's daughter just had a baby. No one said to Donald Trump, are you going to jump out of the presidential race because now you're a grandfather? or
right.
their grandfather
and
again.
you're too old. Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
when Chelsea Clinton had her baby, there was all this speculation in the mainstream press that maybe Hillary Clinton wouldn't run because she's a grandma now.
The sexism against Hillary Clinton is so pervasive. I couldn't even begin to address it in this podcast. There's too much of it. It's aimed at all women. I was just reading a Guardian article, and I wish I could remember the title of it. I'm going to try to find it right now on my tab, so forgive me if I'm not completely focused here for a moment. But this article was talking about, it came out yesterday, here it is, the dark side of Guardian comments. It's really worth a read, and anyone who cares about civil discourse should read this. They were saying that 80% of the abusive comments are aimed towards their female journalists and 20% towards black journalists. If you add that up, what you have is this, and it's not aimed at white men who are writing about the news, writing about politics. So this is the way that women are kept out of the loop. They're denied a seat at the table. They're intimidated. You have to put up with all of this hatred. Jessica Valenti said, it's like coming into work and having people hurl insults at you before you even get to your desk, calling you the C word, telling you you're incompetent, telling you you're stupid, questioning your judgment. This is what a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters feel is happening over and over again, and it is happening. And the thing is, Bernie Sanders has long been a man of great integrity, and he needs to continue with that persona. I'm not saying it's fake, but I mean that's his public persona to many Democrats and liberals. That's his brand, exactly. And he needs to continue with that by taking a firm stand against this. It doesn't mean that Dr. Song should be vilified.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that either. He made a mistake. He did apologize, but Sanders needs to explain why. Just like he had to sit down with Black Lives Matter and really hear them, he needs to listen to women. And so do all of these so-called Democrats who are complaining about this and keep sending me definitions of whore as if that makes it okay. You need to listen to what women are saying. This is a long-term issue. It has been used against women. It's not okay to silence women and to continue this attitude, this sort of condescending attitude, is very patriarchal, and that's anti-democratic.
And we just came off of the whole qualifications comment flap.
Right.
So this is starting to build up into a pattern.
Right. It's not politically good for Bernie Sanders. I don't think that this is what he stands for.
No,
I don't think these
I
are
don't think
things
so
he
either.
believes, actually.
No.
This is a man who has long fought for civil rights. He has championed, and I like his wife a lot. She's very outspoken, and a man who marries someone like that is probably a man who respects women. I mean, I'm just saying. I don't think that he has some kind of inherent disrespect of women. I think that what's happening is the campaign's getting a little out of control, and as he's facing more and more challenges, some of the values and, say, the bar of discourse is being lowered. That's what needs to change.
I think a big part of the problem is, and I'll break this apart. The big part of the problem is this: Bernie Sanders, since he didn't start out the Democratic Party, doesn't have Democrats working for him as operational. He has a lot of progressive activists who have issues with the Democratic Party. And what's happening here is they're sort of the far left, the very far left. And those people don't like the Democratic Party. When Elizabeth Warren turned them down, they kind of glommed onto Bernie Sanders, and they're able to provide some grassroots organizing, infrastructure, things his campaign needs. So there's sort of a disconnect between some of this far left and the stuff that the man himself doesn't give us any evidence of representing. And that's a big part of the problem, is some of this stuff is being projected now onto the man. And it's
right. That's a really good point. And I think that I don't want to denigrate any large group of people, but I think it's really bizarre, and I think it's worthy of exploring. People who call themselves far left, but then don't care about the civil rights of black people and don't care about equal rights for women. How are you far left?
Yeah.
I think what that really means is you hate government and you don't want anybody telling you what to do and you don't want anybody reading your emails. That's not really the same as being a hardcore liberal.
Yeah.
That's being an angry